How the most secure prison on the planet is equipped, in what conditions the prisoners of the notorious Indian prison are kept, and how the most dangerous criminals sentenced to life are protected. Today you will find out the answers to these questions, as well as all the most interesting details about different prisons in the world. I will tell you about the most secure prison on the planet, from which not a single person could escape, and I will also tell you about the most impenetrable and harsh prisons in the world. IDEX Florence. Perhaps many of you have never heard of a prison called IDEX Florence, but this particular prison, also known as Mountain Alcatraz, is considered the most secure, impregnable in the world. It is impossible to escape from it, and no one has ever managed to do this. This is a maximum security correctional prison with super maximum security. Opened in 1994, Florence has a capacity of 490 but currently houses 344 prisoners. Not much for a prison whose territory is scattered over 20 hectares, however, only the most dangerous prisoners in the whole world are kept here. When designing the prison, the authorities decided to create a place of detention where the risk of attack on employees and the possibility of escape would be completely eliminated, and they succeeded. The prison has 6 security levels, from the highest security level to the least restrictive level. Criminals held in solitary confinement cells of the highest security level are kept there 23 hours a day. Prisoners cannot determine their location inside the prison, or even the direction of the world, only the sky is visible from the narrow windows. Inside the solitary cells there is an additional grille, separating the heavy door from the living quarters, so that the guards can enter without fear of an unexpected attack. Almost everything is made of concrete, including the beds, table, and chair, and the shower is turned off on a timer so that there is no flood. Communication with the outside world is prohibited. Prisoners are constantly monitored. The prison is stuffed with motion sensors and is surrounded by a fence with barbed wire almost 4 meters high. In general, no matter how hard you try, it is simply impossible to escape from here. Black Dolphin. Black Dolphin, one of the most famous prisons in all of Russia, is perhaps not the most secure and impregnable prison in the country, and this is not surprising because the most dangerous and brutal criminals of the country are kept here, serving life sentences. At the moment there are about 860 criminals, and there are even more staff members here, about 900. The colony maintains strict isolation from contact between prisoners. There are 2 to 4 people per cell. However, there are especially dangerous prisoners who are kept in solitary confinement. Prisoners observe the strictest regimes, are under constant video surveillance. When leaving the cell, the prisoner is escorted by a dog handler with a dog. Guards pass through the cells every 15 minutes, and the cells themselves are a cage within a cage. The prisoners are separated from the doors and windows by massive steel bars. It is not surprising that none of the prisoners sentenced to life were able to escape from here. Alcatraz. Perhaps Alcatraz is the most famous prison in the world. Now it no longer works, but at one time it was the most secure in the world, which is why even people who had nothing to do with crime or law enforcement spoke a lot about it. At one time, Alcatraz housed the most dangerous criminals in the world, including the legendary Al Capone, gangster Machine Gun Kelly and the famous crime boss Bumpy Johnson. It was almost impossible to escape from Alcatraz, if only because the prison itself was located on the island. A couple of kilometers from San Francisco, even getting out of the cell takes incredible effort, let alone swimming for several minutes in cold water with a strong current in a prison uniform. Plus, the cell bars had steel bars and motion sensors. All service tunnels were tightly cemented. There were guard towers around the prison, and weapons galleries were located along the perimeter of the prison building. For almost 30 years until its closure in 1963, only 3 prisoners managed to escape from Alcatraz: Frank Morris, Clarence Anglin, and John Anglin. They escaped in June 1962, they were never found, and therefore many believe that their escape did not take place and that the fugitives were killed by a strong current. The escape from Alcatraz, this rare exception, corrected the fact that usually no one escapes from highly secure prisons, and the following example is an excellent confirmation of it. Prison in Portlaoise. Portlaoise is an unusual city located in Ireland. Its population is only about 20,000 people, however, the tiny town was able to become famous throughout the world thanks to one of the most secure and reliable prisons on the planet. By the way, it is another of the oldest operating prisons on Earth. It was built in the 1830s. Today any person accused of crimes against the state is sent here because of the unique security measures that are in place in the prison. The prison is permanently controlled by the Irish Army. They guard it around the clock. A detachment of about a platoon armed with rifles and anti-aircraft machine guns patrols the prison complex. Along the entire perimeter there are high walls equipped with security cameras and motion sensors. The prison is designed for 399 people, but only 120 prisoners are kept here, as they believe that this is easier to control the worst criminals in the region. Fuku. If Western civilizations rely on physical barriers, material structures, and maximum isolation, then in Asia criminals are re-educated by ancient traditions and hellish regimes. At least this is the case in Fuku Prison, which is located on the outskirts of Tokyo and is considered one of the most brutal and secure prisons on the planet. Here people are not beaten, they are broken psychologically, because the Japanese believe that the main purpose of prison is the complete re-education of the criminal. A number of merciless and even meaningless rules have been introduced in Fuku. For example, prisoners are advised to speak as little as possible even during visits with relatives. You are also not allowed to look the warden in the eyes. During meals you are not allowed to communicate with your neighbors at all. Why communicate there? You shouldn't even look in their direction if you don't want to be punished. Everything is regulated. From gate to the schedule of hygiene procedures. If a prisoner wets his hair on the wrong day instead of just washing, a punishment cell awaits him. He addressed the guard differently than Mr. Chief of the punishment cell. He made a mistake in the punishment cell ritual. Moreover, in the punishment cell, criminals are often forced to kneel for hours. All this is done in order to forever discourage prisoners from wanting to break the law again. Thanks to such methods, as well as security and Fuku, no one has ever escaped from this prison. Kinshan. Kinshan Prison, located in neighboring China, is no less impregnable. It is considered one of the most secure prisons not only in China, but throughout the world. Located near Beijing, Kinshan Prison is the most secure facility of its kind in China. Mostly this prison houses political prisoners, as well as corrupt officials of various calibers, from petty bribe takers to people who have never had anything to do with governing the country, but then got caught taking a bribe. The prisoners here have no right to a name. They are identified by a combination of two numbers: starvation, harsh regime, work, and a lot of restrictions. This is only a small part of what local prisoners have to face. They will not be able to escape from here. Kinshan is a prison with the tallest observation towers in the world, more than 5,000 policemen watching over prisoners. The prison has recently been modernized with advanced cameras and technical equipment, so that a successful escape from Kinshan is practically impossible. Arthur Route Central Jail of Indian Mumbai is a prison located on Arthur Road. It is the largest and oldest prison in the city, built back in the 1920s when Mumbai was Bombay. Since then, the city has grown so much that the prison is located in the middle of residential areas. These days, a monorail runs close to the prison, so passengers can look directly into the prisoners' windows. The main problem of the prison is constant overcrowding. The prison has a capacity of 800 people, but currently houses about 2,500 criminals. Prisoners sleep on the floor, with barely enough room to stretch out to their full height, and solitary confinement in this prison is considered a godsend. The living conditions here are appalling. The overcrowded cell facilitates the spread of diseases, and it is surprising that last year more than 100 prisoners here caught COVID at once. Among other things, the prison is known for the terrible treatment of prisoners. But not much is known about the prison. It mainly houses prisoners who have committed particularly serious crimes. No one has ever escaped from here. There have been attempts. In 2017, one prisoner drove onto scaffolding for the construction of a new building on the prison grounds and jumped over the wall. He landed directly on top of a police car and was taken back to prison, after which it became even more closely guarded.